Splat Zones. The first ranked mode in all of Splatoon. I've heard folks talking about this mode as if it's the best ranked mode in all of Splatoon's history. It's been lauded for its simplicity, being called the easiest mode to understand, the best mode for beginners to get a feel of how Anarchy works in general. But what do I think about it? Oh, only that it's the worst Anarchy mode in the whole game. Look, I gotta be honest, ever since I played it back in Splatoon 2, I just didn't like it. Nowadays, if I get on Splatoon 3 and it's an Anarchy series, I'm just not playing. It's not happening. Well, now you're probably asking, how do you feel that strongly about Splat Zones? Is it really that bad? Yes it is. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. I believe I've got some ideas on how we can fix the mode. But before I get into that, how about I detail the problems I have with the mode specifically so that you at least know where I'm coming from. The first problem is the objective itself. Yes, that just sounds like the entire mode as a concept is terrible to me, but let me explain. The objective is simple. Keep the center of the map covered with your color longer than the enemy keeps it covered with their color. Now let's compare that to the other modes, shall we? Tower control. Stand on a small elevated area and move it into your enemy spawn. Rainmaker. Carry a super weapon into your enemy spawn. Clam blitz. Assemble a super clam and take it to your enemy's clam basket to score clams. Do you see where I'm going with this? Splat Zones is the only mode where you don't have to advance into your enemy spawn to score. Sure, it's helpful to push up and block the other team from getting back to the objective, but you don't have to do it to win. But it can certainly give you a strong advantage given my second point, poorly designed maps. For reasons I can't fathom, the quality of the maps in Splatoon has gone down drastically this game. You'd think a game mode in which your sole objective is to get to the center of the map and conversely keep your opponents out of the center of the map would host maps with a few more routes, don't you think? Consider some old maps from Splatoon 2, for example. New Albacore Hotel, look how many routes this stage has. Here, 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 here. How about Starfish Main Stage? Look how many it has. Here, 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 here. You can even flank here. Now take a map from Splatoon 3, say Mahi Mahi Resort. Let's see how many routes it has. Here. That's it, just one. Ooh, another one, Barnacle and Dime. How many does it have? Here. Huh, only one again. What I'm getting at is that it's way too easy to just block one route in from spawn. Like if your team manages to get knocked out just once, it's pretty much just KO right then. But what's a stagnant objective in a cramped map without my third point? A terrible meta to encourage them. No, I don't mean just the weapon meta, I mean the meta of how the entire game mode works. For example, the first problem I would note with the game mode's meta is its score clock. Think about it. You get 5 minutes to play, but as the score clock is counting down from 100, it goes faster than 1 point per second. I always thought this was a bit fast, even back in Splatoon 2, but nowadays, given the maps, I would say it's way too fast. Sure, you can KO that fast in the other game modes, but again, their objectives require moving into the opponent's spawn, which is inherently going to be harder. Speaking of the opponent's spawn, let's talk about the second problem I have with the meta. Spawn camping. Yes, I already know what you're going to say. I don't think spawn camping is inherently wrong on its own. Hey, I do it myself. The problem is that the game just makes it way too easy and rewarding to do. On most maps, you can get right up on top of the enemy as soon as they spawn in to shred their armor and splat them immediately. Compare that to the older games where at least you had a little bubble to keep you safe as you could charge your specials, or even compare it to the same game's different modes. Again, Tower Control, Rainmaker, and Clam Blitz, all those objectives are a lot further into the enemy spawn. Meaning not only do they have to come to you to score, but also spawn camping's not going to be quite as big of a priority either because they've also got to focus on the objective at the same time. I'm not even going to mention the checkpoints that Tower Control and Rainmaker have, which inherently forces the opponent to stop moving forward for a brief time, giving you a chance to push back. But even if you did still spawn into an invincible dome, there would still be the problem with, yes, the special weapons. Okay, forget the fact that you used to be able to stand in said invincible dome in order to charge your special weapons and help you beat the spawn camping. Back in Splatoon 2, what special weapons did you see a lot of in Splat Zones? Ink Armor. Probably because it helps you break through defenses, perhaps? What kind of special weapons do we have in Splatoon 3? Well, we got Crab Tank, which is effective at extending one's defense. We got Tri-Strike, which allows you to cap the zone as long as you're within range, but again, spawn camping. There's Kraken, but I don't know, I just never see it used in Splat Zones. Maybe because certain specials like Crab and Tri-Strike are not only on more capable Splat Zones winning weapons, but are also just better at the objective than Kraken is in general. Look, I'm just saying, whether you think these things I've mentioned are problems or not, off the top of my head, I'd say at least 80% of the matches I play end in either me knocking the other team out or me getting knocked out. Like this background footage I recorded the other day of me playing Splat Zones. Just look how many of them were knockouts. Every single one of them. When I win them, I don't even pay attention to the clock, it's just boring time passing. And when I lose them, it's just us struggling to get to mid over and over again to no avail. So now that I've got the problems out of the way, allow me to explain some corrections I've come up with to fix the mode. First, let's tackle the problem with that stagnant objective. Consider how tower control was reworked in Splatoon 2, or how Rainmaker was reworked in Splatoon 3. What'd they do? They added checkpoints. And what's the purpose of those checkpoints? To stall the objective, to give the opponent a chance to come back, to make it a little easier to regroup in the event they get wiped out. So, why not try checkpoints in Splat Zones? Let me give you an example. So here we have Hagglefish Splat Zones, a typical Splatoon 3 Splat Zones map. The central zone here would stay about as normal, except for it would be reduced to 40 points. When one team has held it for 40 points worth of time, they can move on to the next checkpoint. Let's say the second checkpoint would be about here. It's about halfway to the enemy spawn, a decent middle ground for either team to have to get to defend. It would be worth about 30 points. Once you've cleared that, you can move on to the third checkpoint, which I would imagine to be about here. This would be the final checkpoint, about where the Rainmaker and tower control goals are. It would also be worth 30 points, and if you clear this zone, you knock out. How would the enemy team oppose this? Let me explain that. If you're on a checkpoint zone, and the enemy manages to contest either the central zone or any checkpoint zone that you're either currently working on or have already cleared, then the objective is contested and no one scores points. No, this wouldn't mean that the enemy team begins scoring points. It just means that the objective is contested. To begin scoring points again, you would need to take the central zone, or, if you're on any checkpoint zones, the central zone and whatever checkpoints you've already taken or are working on. So if while my team is attempting to clear this zone, and the enemy team manages to get behind me and take either this checkpoint zone or the central zone, the objective is contested and we would need to go regain control of both of those Splat Zones in order to continue gaining points. Just as you don't have to clear a tower control checkpoint more than once, similarly you wouldn't have to clear a Splat Zone checkpoint more than once either. You would only need to maintain it so you could continue scoring points further on down the line. Okay, cool, so we got a dynamic objective now. But it doesn't matter how good the dynamic objective is if the maps are still bad. I don't necessarily think major reworks of all the maps is necessary, although at this point it would be appreciated. I think even small changes could have a major effect on the game mode. Consider this little drop-off area here on Hammerhead Bridge. What if there was actually a platform there you could use to get around the enemy and flank them instead? Even an ink rail or a grate would suffice in my opinion. Or what if you took these walls out on Undertow's spillway? That'd give you an extra flanking route. If they can give you extra flanking routes in Clan Blitz, there's no reason they couldn't also give them to you in Splat Zones. Also, while we're talking about map reworks, can we also make it a little more difficult to get to the enemy spawn? Please? Seriously, what is this? This is the only safe area I get in the entire map where the enemy cannot reach. And even then they can still shoot up here at me. What's with this? Everybody knows how frustrating it is to just keep spawning in over and over again, to keep getting splatted by an opponent team that's just spawn camping you over and over again, because of how easy it was for them to get up to the spawn in the first place. Seriously, in a game where all the maps are smaller than in previous games, why would it be easier to get to the enemy spawn? Especially when in this game you're less protected than you were in the other games when spawning in. To make it harder to spawn camp, couldn't we just make it harder to get to the spawn in the first place? You could stretch the spawn area out so the opponent can't shoot up to you, or you could do something like Manta Maria does. Have some weird platforming with grates, perhaps also some ink rails or sponges to make it a lot harder to get up to spawn in the first place. Now finally, let's talk about fixing the meta, shall we? First and most obvious thing, make the clock count slower. Just pretty straightforward. I think about 1 point per second would be plenty fast enough, especially when the game is supposed to last 5 minutes. Another game mechanic I think they could consider changing would be active special charge. As I said, the defending team can charge their specials all day long while they keep you locked in your spawn. Sure, if the enemy team is scoring, you gain special charge passively, but the games go so fast it'd be over by the time it charges your special anyway. Alternatively, what if for the team that's scoring, their active special charge is slower? The slowing of the special charge rate could also apply to how far into your enemy spawn you've gone. The further you've gone into the enemy spawn beyond whatever checkpoint you're currently at, the slower your special gauge will charge. I've even thought of adding respawn punishing mechanics to those who get splatted by opponents whose spawn armor is still active. Basically, I recommend tuning the mechanics of the game to discourage spawn camping, as opposed to encouraging it as it currently does. Changes such as these, I believe, would give the defending team a better chance at coming back, which in turn would better balance out the mode and make it more fun to play as a whole. So, in conclusion, Yes, Splat Zones is different than the other modes. It's the only mode that hasn't been reworked at all yet. 8 years with the same terrible mechanics. Its age most certainly shows. And hey, as Splatoon itself has evolved, why shouldn't its game modes evolve with it? After all, it was the developers themselves who said they were going to be refining the game modes they currently have as opposed to adding new ones. You literally said that's the reason you're not adding new Anarchy modes, and then what, you go ahead and don't change Splat Zones after 8 years? If anything, I would say these suggestions will help them stay true to their word. Thanks again for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe to my channel. This is my first time trying a video like this, and honestly, I had a fun time making it. So feel free to leave your questions and critiques down in the comments below. And yes, don't worry, I read every comment. I'm still trying to figure this genre of video out, and I can use all the help I could get. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you again next time.